Still kind of goofing around with this issue of centering this pulley properly. The one thing I found is there's the interior pulley right here. If I can get this completely tight, the inside one was still going back a little. Now I'm not sure if I've been doing something wrong or the company that sold me this, which this is an eBay one that I bought some years ago. So I'm not really sure what's going on, but what I've decided to try, and hopefully this is going to be the correct issue to resolve this. Oop, there went the belt. And what I did was there was a spacer that came in, and from what the instructions said was to slide this on. Well, sliding this on as I had it before was pushing this front pulley completely out of alignment. So what I did is, same way I kind of custom made my rear gear, went ahead and took it, went ahead and cut it, kind of hand machined it myself. And what I did was I just basically went ahead and cut it right in half. And this is not going on all the way. Let me have my tiny loop. There it goes. So we're going to find out exactly why. Oh, I see exactly what I'm doing wrong. Let me, well, what I goofed up on. There we go. And so far the pulleys look somewhat correct. And what I'm going to do is reinsert the belt and see if this is going to help. This is actually going to possibly help me with this situation. And to get this thing on all the way, get this on, give it a nice straight look. And now it looks like, with me cutting that little spacer in half, it looks like now my belt is correct. Like, I've got a nice straight line from pulley to pulley. So what I'm going to continue to do is slide this on. Apologize for that. The camera battery ended up dying on me, which seems like a notorious thing with these GoPros. It's about really the only thing I don't like about my GoPros. The batteries seem like they don't really last. I have the name brand ones and the cheap eBay ones, and they're all about the same. But getting back on subject here, looks like there should be just enough belt movement, so that way once the belt is once the unit is spinning, and there I go, I'm keep goofing stuff up, not paying attention, but I'm so excited. I want to get this thing together. Now there should be, looks like there is still a little movement, and let's see what happens. If that's going to be in there, then we'll take this, run it down in there. The belt definitely looks a lot straighter than what it was. And the cool part, by actually addressing this issue, which I should have before I started mocking up, the cool part is it should give me more clearance on this side. I had about 1/8 over here, but if I would have paid attention to this a little bit sooner, this would have gave me a little bit more room to reposition this motor in the inside the cart, because now the fan pulley is actually kind of tight, which I'm not going to let it really bother me. What I'm going to do right now is just we're going to stick a couple more washers on here. And like I said, and the problem is this is supposed to be a copy of Comet's design, I believe. Comet, from what I understand, isn't in business anymore, but this is supposed to be just the same. It's supposed to be as. They're definitely not cheap for these bigger motors. I believe I don't even get this wrong, but this I've been so long ago since I bought it. I believe I want to say this is about $100 and something, because this is the 1-inch shaft. Alright, just going to get this snug with the wrench. Once I get everything in the cart, I can Always tighten everything up. From what I see, it looks like everything's nice and tight now. And if you notice, it's got slippage, which is supposed to be there, and the reason for that is what's in neutral. This piece is supposed to just keep on churning and not move this belt. So that looks a lot better from what it was. So I'm pretty well happy about that. Since I'm already over here, we'll go ahead and tighten up the exhaust. Everything here should be good. Before I say that, you know what? Why don't I go ahead and actually go ahead and take this apart. There's a reason why I know I brought it here. I'm going to go ahead and take this apart and bring over the welding cart. Let me finish up the little bit of fab work. More like just a little simple welding on the exhaust header. We'll go ahead and knock that out, so this exhaust can go back in, and I believe that's really about it. Little bit of welding left. I have a little bit here from where I extended this pipe and just finished this up, and I believe that's all it is, and this exhaust can go back in permanently. Oh, it's an exciting time. Got the rest of the exhaust header. Just double check and make sure everything is fully welded in. So we're going to slide that on. Because the exhaust studs are so long, there's a little spacer I put in there, which is nothing more than a larger bolt. But it transfers the torque and keeps everything nice and tight. And I hate doing things left-handed, but there we go. The exhaust is done. We got the drivetrain, which is the torque converter clutch. That's done as well, so we're sliding on the rest. Once I finish giving all this a nice tightening, I guess the next step would be go ahead and mount the engine. We're going to go ahead and mount the engine back in the cart, but this time it's going to be fully mounted in there. I'll stick it on its spot. I'll run a couple bolts through without tightening anything. And what I'm going to do is double check the chain and everything, make sure everything is still going to line up. Because any little problems can be fixed now before actually getting in there and trying to tighten up everything fully. And that's going to be really the next step, is everything's starting to go back together. The rear half of the cart's basically becoming done, so I'll just meet you back at the cart. Now I had to show this because I guess even the best kind of screw up. Almost totally forgot. Had finished bolting down this plate. But I think the part that I almost forgot, which was even worse than just simple bolting up, adding a couple more self-tapping screws to this thick plate, was where the engine mount, or the bolt goes through the engine, through this top plate, through the center bar, and actually attach the motors directly to the frame. I almost goofed up and forgot to drill those holes. But at least I remembered. Time for the engine to go in. Sitting here goofing around. This is, let me think how I'm going to explain this. The clips you've seen before this one were done yesterday. I did a little bit before work, a little bit after work. Well, this morning, I had probably 15 minutes to goof around with this before I had to go to work. So what I did was, let me kind of get y'all up to date. Trying to put the camera down for a little bit because I just realized we're in part 6 and I barely feel like I got anything done. But what I did this morning, after hurting my back yesterday morning, my back's been killing me from accidentally the way I lifted this motor off my bench and sat it down. So Finally got it last night bolted fully down. Out of the 4 mounting bolts, I've only got 3, but they're super tight. Need to get one more, which is a hair longer than what I have. Still haven't tightened all this down, but that's to be done. But the other exciting part is I've got 2 of the 3 bolts on the exhaust with a gasket. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, he's half-assing it. Well, not half-assing it, running out of stuff. This, for the old 6.5, this is the bolt I had holding the motor down. Same diameter and everything as the other bolts, which are similar to this one. The difference is, well, you can see length difference, and that's just how I needed this bolt for the last engine. But this bolt, same diameter, but I need it probably 1/2 inch longer would work the best. So that's to be due on that. As far as that back there, that little triangle, which is the exhaust manifold, I just happened to find 2 bolts laying on the cart. They came from, I believe this right here. This is the old solenoid switch. Took this off, which was mounted here, and it was mounted here the entire time I've owned the cart. So I really don't need it. The reason the last guy who I bought this rolling chassis from left this is because the other post broke off, so made this solenoid worthless. Now, what I see is another 2 nuts and bolts. So I might actually snag one of them if they come off easily, and I'll use it for the 3rd bolt back there for the exhaust. I just noticed that, so I'm going to take advantage of that. What I'll do is these little nuts, I'll take all 3 of these off, throw them in the nut and bin drawers. Same thing with the extra one of these. I'll reuse this. And what I'm looking at right now is this red cable. Now, length for my battery might work. If not, I have a heavy-duty cable for that battery, so I can mount the battery right over there. What I'm thinking is just take and paint the sheathing black and use this for from here to a chassis ground. I'll ground the engine out to the chassis because of the paint on that plate, so I'll go ahead and knock that out. But what you've noticed, let me see if I can mount y'all down somewhere. Where can I put the tripod? There we go. Now if you notice, there's a big mumbo jumbo of what is this, jumper cables and wires and stuff. And what I did this morning, this is the part I wanted to show you, went ahead and I thought about how hard this motor is to start. Like if you haven't started it for the first time, or there's been no fuel in that carb, it takes forever. Probably took me at least 15 minutes of cranking on it intermittently to get it to finally crank with the help of some Polar starting fluid. Stuff's bad for these little engines, but you definitely don't want to hand pull it for the first time. It takes forever. But here's what I've got so far, and this is just a temporary test. We're going to flip the little choke on. It's actually very hard to do one-handed, but what do you think? I got it to the point the motor can actually crank up and run. It's not gnarly loud. Well, the tailpipe is not loud. It does have a nice rumble coming through the muffler back here, through the muffler in this tip. I love that sound. It's got a little bub 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 bub, real low mellow. This is where I got to get quieted down. The tank can't be used with this project, and the reason is it actually sits too tall. Right about here is the seat height. If you notice, it's about halfway through the tank. So, tank issue, I'm going to actually do something custom, and I've got a couple of different ideas. I have this tank down here, That was somebody custom made it out of aluminum, but somebody cut it on 3 sides. So that would give me an idea to use these 1/8 inch aluminum brazing rods. I picked these up from Northern Tool. So been wanting to play with brazing some aluminum, haven't done that yet. Or if you could see it, I don't have a light out here because my light burned out. It's probably not going to be able to show in this video, but right there in front of you, if you can see it, if you can't, it's a big old fire extinguisher. Now, my neighbor threw it away, and I got thinking, I was like, oh, that would take it apart, empty it, whatever. That would make one killer fuel tank up here. Maybe even paint it blue, get a NOS sticker. So you'll have the original body, you'll have the tank, maybe make some custom mounts. And all I got to do through a bottom bung, just feed the fuel line straight down through a small hole. We'll take this fuel line off the tank, just rerun it back this way. So that's a possibility. So it's either this big square one, or I'm thinking go with a smaller fire extinguisher turned into like maybe a NOS bottle. Might actually look pimp. Besides the fuel tank, which as I button up some of these issues, I got to finish assembling. Got to decide on a tank because this can't stay. Also, maybe some bed lining inside the body right here. On the fiberglass body, I'm thinking maybe bed liner or Dynomat or something to kill the sound. So we want to kill the sound from all 3 sides and maybe the bottom of the seat. The more I can muffle the engine sound, I'll be happier. Getting back to the wiring, just some quick ideas I came up with before I cut the camera on. While I was in the little town where I work, stopped by the hardware store and picked up some wire. I asked the guy for 4 or 5 strand. Unfortunately, he only had 3 strands, so I went ahead and took it. It was $1.29 a foot. So I picked up 7 foot. I'm still kind of upset that he didn't have 4 strand. And when I got here, I figured it out. I do need 4 strand. What this mumble jumper of wires, what you see is the harness out of the racing mower. I took the harness, which was originally, it had like a little doohickey box that mounts to the side of these stock. This and this are the 2 mounting bolts for this little box. It would hold your off and on key and your fuse and your breaker. Well, what I did was I snipped the ends and just added a piece of wire. So if this wire right here, for instance, is brown on this side, doesn't matter what color I have in on the middle of it, because it would connect brown to whatever color I had. It would run at the very end of that wire. I would attach the other end of the brown wire. So basically all I did was just kind of ghetto lengthen all the wires. Worked great for the racing mower, but for this, what I want to do is we're going to add 1 more strand of this on the outside, duct tape it, zip tie it, whatever. We're going to run the wires underneath and go up to a front custom dash. That's why I wanted this motor, because it has a key. So since I polished this, I'm thinking we're going to take this piece, clean it up, make it look like this one, and somehow I'm going to put it in place of where the plastic crap was that the last person took off here. So we're going to make some kind of dash using this piece of aluminum. We're going to use the scraps of this aluminum, possibly maybe make some bottom feet rests, and we'll have to buy one for that big piece. Still got a voltage gauge to put up here, miscellaneous switches for lights and whatnot, because we are going to do some stuff. Underneath there, you probably can't see it from this angle, but underneath the cup holders is it's a push button. It's a momentary, so what I'm thinking is let's put some horns, maybe some actual air horns on this thing. I've got a lot of ideas, y'all just got to stay tuned. I'm just shooting y'all like 1,000 ideas and rambling, but I have so many more ideas that we're gonna, since I figured I'm gonna rebuild this cart, let me do it different. Let me go more power, comfort of an off and on switch as far as a key, some cool accessories, lighting, whatever, since it is going to be the fun family mobile, little hot rod in the neighborhood. I was just thinking about this whole engine and this little bit of wiring I have here. I definitely want to go ahead and kind of get started on trying to get the key more up front and make the wiring a little bit nicer than what it is. And this is just literally an old harness that's just been temporarily hooked up for starting this engine. So what I got thinking was the other piece of aluminum that still needs to be cleaned up. Figured why not just add some more custom touches, and I'm thinking about, instead of making a plate that comes around and wraps the side, I'm thinking about actually putting something in here that I could screw in, like a piece of wood or something, or having it where it slips in right through here and maybe just pop rivets or screws, something. Not exactly sure what I'm doing, but I'm definitely making a plate. I'm going to make something that goes there. And what I've done, taken that piece of that other piece of aluminum, taken my little square, drawed out a square that's going, or rectangle, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be 11 7/8 wide. And having to remember, this is going to be on this side, will be to the left, this will be the right. Technically right now we're looking at the back side. What I'm thinking, go ahead and use the cutoff wheel, trim this out. I have it clamped down to the bench. I have just a little piece of wood on this end just so I don't cut through into the bench, but cut this out. I'll have to figure up, I believe it'll be over here. It's going to have two spaces. It's going to come up and it'll just do a half round circle so it just slips around the steering column. But then that will give me an area, which I got the hole saw ready, place to mount a little volt gauge like I used to have on the racing mower, so I could always tell what my voltage is in the battery. Have room for a bunch of I think, here we go, there's a bunch of different switches that I got for different projects that have just been laying around here. Simple off and on toggles. I have some LED, I believe these, yeah, these are LEDs, 12 volt LED marker light, so I can always keep track of what's on, what's not. And I've got various switches up there. So a lot of this stuff was recycled off the racing mower, and I figured I'm going to use it for this. So I guess without further ado, go ahead and get this cut and get this piece ready to be worked and getting it ready to be polished, and we'll see about making it fit in there. Well, here goes nothing. What I did is just grab a hole saw for, this is a 2 1/8 inch bit, and if my calculations are correct, I don't know, kind of afraid of cutting this, if that means anything, because I hate to screw up, but I guess what I could do is, guess once I do this, there's no turning back. So I guess what I'm going to do is, I think I've got my measurements in the correct spot. I think a little off would be better than being way off, so I think this is where I'm going to, if both my horizontal and my vertical line are correct, I should be right, I believe, in the ballpark of having it correct. So I guess here goes nothing.